Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, use of force expert, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, CEO of Active Self-Protection, Stephanie Widener.
Today's video is sponsored by Vici Tactical Belts. This belt is the belt that I wear in formal or professional attire. I really like it and I recommend it highly. It's made out of real leather with a solid stainless steel belt buckle. You can see it is quite rigid vertically, but it has good torsional flexibility, which is exactly what you want for a great concealed carry belt. Works great in professional environments, formal wear, all the way down to casual wear too. It's the belt that I wear in formal attire like a suit. I recommend it highly. Please check them out at the link below. We don't get video of how this one began, but we see these two motorcyclists kind of looping about in front of this little red car that has an elderly gentleman in the driver's seat and I'm gonna guess his wife in the passenger seat who's also elderly. He's gonna stop at the stoplight here. They're gonna pin him in. We have audio of what happens from here, so let's listen in. It gets a little crazy.
I'm videoing it.
Yeah, they try that on someone. Oh, I bet you they wouldn't do that to me.
I think I need police. I'm literally at the light on Rancho and Oki, and there's this elderly man in a in a red car, and these two guys have gotten off their motorcycles, and I'm not sure what they're about to do. No, they're off of their motorcycles. They're blocking the intersection, and they're like, oh shit! Oh my god!
Oh.
The old guy just got out a gun. I'm sorry, I just panicked. Yeah, the guy just got out of his red vehicle and he has a gun. Yes, he has a silver gun in his left hand.
Oh my god, I'm shaking. I have it all on video.
Put that shit away!
Video.
We're literally stopped at the light on Rancho and Oki.
That's what they get. That's what they get.
I'm on Oki heading west. Yes. It's silver and it's small, and the guys on the motorcycles just flagged down a firefighter, but they're the ones that antagonized the guy in the red
And
car.
I have it all on video.
And, yeah, my coworker is videotaping the whole incident. The guy with the gun, he's white and elderly.
I'm gonna let them know I have
He's
it.
probably in his 60s. Probably about 5'5".
I have it!
I have scant news stories on this one. I don't know if anyone was charged. Doesn't look like anybody got shot. I don't know if they chased him down to another place. I don't know what ended up happening with the cops or any charges on this one. So if you have a better news story, my Google foo failed me. Hit it in the comments for me, would you? All right, fun fact. I bet you didn't know this, but Stephanie is one of the very first Force Science Advanced Force Science Specialist graduates from a non-sworn perspective.
Oh, such a great course. We learned so much that we're able to bring back to these videos to use to analyze these use of force encounters in a much more research-informed way.
So why is Stephanie here all the time? Because quite frankly, she's one of the leading experts in the country on the issue. Where this one was sent to me on social media, Steph, I see an awful lot of folks are, saying, well, they were carjacking him or the motorcyclists are the bad guys, but we don't know how this one started. And I would just caution us all when we see partial videos like this to be really careful thinking that we know who is the victim here and who is the aggrieved party versus the aggressor.
I couldn't agree more. As you know, with like all of our expert witness work and just working with video doesn't always tell the whole story. In fact, it doesn't tell a lot of the story sometimes. So I think it's a danger to make the assumption here that the motorcycles are in the wrong. For all we know, the red car pulled out and potentially hit them. Motorcycles have issues with the limited visibility, that cars don't always see them, sometimes pull into them. It could be something like that. We do see them get aggressive after this as they circle around and come around in front of him, but we really don't know how it started.
And I would caution you as a bystander. You know, I've had a couple of cases now as an expert that people say, oh, I know exactly what happened here. And they don't know what happened because they didn't see what was the precursor events and they didn't see what happened ahead of time or their angle wasn't great. So just be aware of that, okay? Be cautious when you see this kind of stuff of assigning value and blame to whomever. If you didn't see everything show up, then you don't know exactly what happened. Also, of course, road rage is stupid. You've got to learn to let it go. This whole thing is going to blow up out of crazy proportion. And I don't know who is the aggressor here, but just letting the road rage go, have a nice day, avoids this whole problem, Steph.
Yeah, and we're going to make some assumptions here about some things that might be happening so that we can learn some lessons from those. I think those are reasonable, but we really don't know who's right and wrong in this incident. So let's, have that as our foundation before we start.
Now, I will say that it looks to me like the guy in the red car is kind of sort of trying to get away here or trying to exit the conflict. I do think he made a mistake here, though, that this is from a tactical issue. If you are the aggrieved party here, I think that probably trying to get away from these guys is the right answer. And that is, these are the kind of times where running a red light is something I would absolutely consider doing. Of course, looking both ways. You don't want to get in a T-bone situation or something like that. But just getting the hell out of there might have gotten them to say, hey, I'm not going to go through the light too. But sometimes we get lawful stupid.
Yeah, and we know that this gentleman gets a gun out fairly quickly. So his argument at that point needs to be that his life was in danger. So if I were trying to argue the other side, I would say if your life was in danger, why did we not proceed through this stoplight? Why did we not choose the lesser of two evils and safely proceed through the stoplight? Why did you sit there if you felt your life was in danger and get a gun out? And those are questions you're going to be asked if you're in a defensive encounter to try to understand, was there an objective threat here? And him stopping here, I think, has to be argued, at least has to be looked at as a factor.
It really does. That is the legal doctrine of preclusion, that you had a better choice available to you that a reasonable person would have taken. And so therefore, you made an unreasonable choice when you had a reasonable choice available to you. So I don't know that we say, wait a minute, is he required to do that? Nah, this is in Nevada. Nevada doesn't have a duty to retreat. I'm not talking about a duty to retreat, but would it have been smart? I think so. So now these guys decide they're going to block him in. They're putting quarters in the jukebox as well of stupid, right? So when you put stupid quarters in the jukebox, it's going to play you stupid songs. And then our guy just comes and he decides he is going to teach this old man a lesson. He is going to point his finger at him and tell him what for and tell him you did wrong. And listen, if he's the aggrieved party, maybe the guy tried to hit him. Maybe he's like, hey, this old man shouldn't be driving. This is stupid, man. It's going to end up with a gun pointed at you. He could have got shot over this.
Yeah, I'm frankly surprised he didn't get shot over it the way it was escalating. I'm thankful that nobody was shot. But yeah, and this is something that we see an awful lot, John, when people send us their own self-defense encounters, they're always the hero in that story. They're always right. And sometimes as we're sitting there watching it with a more objective eye, they're not right. And I think that's the challenge we're seeing here is both the driver feels that he is the right and aggrieved party here that has justice and righteousness on his side. And I feel like our bikers feel exactly the same way. Well, we both can't always be right all the time, and we all have to be careful of that idea that we are correct, that we're seeing things 100% accurately, because you can find yourself in a situation like this where you really aren't, and everyone can see that but you.
Yeah, there's where it is. And listen, your perception is your reality. And, everybody can think they're in the right, which is why we don't want people, just leaning back on simply being legal. We want you to be good, sane, sober, moral, and prudent. Because then you're really seeing things through a lens that will keep you out of problems like this, that I could see either one of these sides ending up in legal trouble and having some significant problems. Now, I think the guy in the car is going to have bigger problems, but I do think here, as this guy comes around to his driver's side, this gets to a place where if he's not the initial aggressor, and I don't know when he originally pulled a gun, But this guy coming up to his window, if his window is down especially, then he can start to argue, wait a minute, I'm an elderly man, so I'm frail, so I have known medical frailties. And so this guy, if he punches me with his, motorcycle gloves on, it's going to put me in the hospital. So then because of that multiple disparities of force, maybe he can argue that the use of deadly force is justified, but that's going to be a very expensive argument to make and probably easier to just leave your window up.
It's a great point, John. And as you know, these cases are built moment by moment, and everything in this moment shifted just a little bit. Now we have an elderly man with his wife that I'm sure he would like to keep safe as well, so it's not just him. He's boxed in pretty well. Could he get out of this? Maybe, but just hitting the motorcycles to get out, I don't think is going to do it, because so many cars will cut your engine after a collision now. So he's going to have a hard time evading right here. There's two of them. The motorcycle's wearing protective gear, so things have shifted a bit. Is it reasonable to being ready to access your gun, being ready to do this? Sure. And I don't know when he got his window down, if there were a statement, say, and then I rolled my window down to point my gun at him. Again, you're going to have problems with stuff like that. But I think right here it's reasonable for this couple to be taking defensive steps.
So again, there's a lot of ifs here, a lot of depends here. And that's the way that these things go. They get murky. And here's the thing. I want you to understand, when your defensive encounter goes like this and gets murky, that's when charges show up. That's when it starts costing you, huge amounts of money and a lot of sleepless nights that you don't want to spend. So this is why we say avoid these fights, because then you don't end up in those fights. Now, I think our guy in the car here starts making some more errors. And probably one of the biggest ones that he makes here is he is going to end up jumping out of the car, because this guy's yipping at him and pointing his finger and those things. So then our guy gets out of the car with a gun. Now that is a huge tactical blunder. You were inside a car, the guy was unarmed, your window could very well be up. It doesn't look like maybe it was. But once you get out of the car, now you've lost the advantage of mobility of your vehicle. You've lost the protection that the vehicle provides for you in its glass and in its steel. And for what? So that you can point your gun more forcefully at him? I think this was a big tactical mistake.
Yeah, I agree. It really puts him at a disadvantage in the lethal, or the encounter here, not the lethal encounter, but the encounter that he's having, puts him at a disadvantage tactically. I'm not sure that it changes a ton legally, except now he's taken a step more towards aggressor, and we're going to see that really bloom here in a minute as motorcycle guy backs up and puts his arms up. That's when everything in this encounter shifts quite a bit. Here we're seeing the shifting of it, and that started with what I agree with you, John, is a tactical error to get out of the safety and barricade of your car just to be more right. I'm not sure what his thought was here. Maybe get better aim? I'm not sure.
Well, and listen, I know some people will sometimes complain in the comments that they're like, well, you're looking at this, in these little split seconds, and that's not how people experience it. I'm going to tell you, the district attorney is going to look at it in little split seconds. The jury is absolutely going to look at it in a moment-by-moment analysis of what you did. Was it reasonable or not? So thinking, well, I can't think like that. Well, then don't carry a gun, because if you can't think like that, then you can't use a firearm with good, sane, sober, moral prudence. Now, I do like here that our motorcyclist decides, I'm backing up and putting my hands up. That right there, when that gun starts coming out and the guy starts really hollering at him, and he says, hey man, okay, you're right, my bad, I don't want any problems. That sure looks like a couple things. What is that showing everybody who is witnessing this? It's showing me that he is a victim here, not an aggressor. And also, from a practical perspective, what's the time? I mean, that's a little tiny little micro pistol that guy has, like a little 32 or even a 25. What are the chances that guy can hit his butt with both hands if you drew him a map, Steph? So getting a few more steps away from him probably got him in the safety zone.
It really did. And I get that that's probably hard for a lot of people to understand. It doesn't look terribly far, but those little guns can be really difficult to shoot with any accuracy at all. And even if you were to get hit, pistol wounds are fairly survivable. But if you get yourself a few feet, that just buys you a few more percentage points of survivability. And also, regardless of what happened to this point in the encounter, whoever started it, whoever was escalating it, at this point, we see our motorcycle guys disengaging from the conflict. So they have now become the innocent party in this, almost regardless of what happened before, at least from the video here. Looks to me like they have completely disengaged. I'm sorry, man, we're out of here. So now our car guy is the aggressor, in my opinion.
And also, I love that he didn't shoot. This is good. He didn't end up shooting these guys. There is a difference between an aggravated offer and aggravated use of force. So an aggravated offer is, the threat of the use of deadly force versus the actual use of deadly force. Now, in some jurisdictions, they're treated exactly the same, but in some, there is some distinction between them. So know your local laws. But also, hey, if he wanted that defensive display, if that's what he's considering, this is a defensive display, it worked. And so he didn't end up having to use the gun. So this is not a must I shoot someone. So this is effective and good. And so I'm glad he didn't press the trigger here. And so it did what he wanted him to do. Also, again, from our guys who are the motorcyclists, if they are upping the conflict a little bit, didn't play out exactly like they wanted. They wanted to teach this guy a lesson, and instead they end up with a case of hemorrhoids from the butt pucker of having a gun pointed at him. And that's not exactly an ideal outcome, Steph.
No, it's really not. And I think the big silver lining here is that the driver did not shoot, and that saves a whole lot of aggravation. Once the bullets leave the gun, it's a whole lot harder if there's murkiness or mistakes. And I think sometimes that can be really hard to do when you have your person on the run. Sometimes we see a lot of defenders kind of almost get a predatorial instinct where they want to continue to move forward and put down that threat. And our guy didn't do that here, and I'm really grateful for that, because I think that, it would have had enormous repercussions for everyone involved.
Now, this is where I see, we changed to a camera that one of the motorcyclists was using to record, probably just his ride, but then now, of course, it's showing up on what we see here. And I want to look at this guy in the red car and look at his face and look at what he's doing. Does this look like somebody who is afraid for their life, or does this look like somebody who is trying to teach somebody a lesson? I can't tell you what he's thinking in his head. I haven't seen any of his statements from him. But I'm telling you that from the video evidence, this guy looks incredulous. He looks pissed off to me. And those kind of things are important. What is going through your mind and why? And he's got his finger on the trigger of the gun, pointing at God knows where, threatening who and everyone with it. This is just it's stupid stuff.
Yeah, like you say, we can't know exactly what he's thinking. He could, if this went to trial, he could testify and tell us what he was thinking. But very often they don't want the person to testify if they can get away with it, which means he won't ever get a chance to tell us what he was thinking. And the finder of fact, whether that's the judge or the jury in that particular case, would get to decide what kind of manifested intent are we seeing here. We get to judge what he is thinking based on his actions, his expressions, his words. So yeah, that's important to think about those optics, at least to the extent that you can, because they will come up.
Also, I think that as an elderly person, I'm down with an elderly person carrying a firearm. I'm down with everybody carrying a firearm, right? We have the right to keep and bear arms. And a firearm can be an incredible force equalizer, especially against multiple attackers, multiple aggressors. But don't let it make you brave. Don't let it make you bold, right? If your attitude changes because I got a gun on me, that's a problem in your soul. That's a problem of your internal moral compass, right? Good, sane, sober, moral, prudent. That's how we want to be. Not, yeah, well, I wish it so-and-so would. You do not wish it so-and-so would. You don't, because when they do, it is literally the worst day of your life. So I just think, again, window up and hands in your waist here. Okay, get away from these guys. Don't show them what for. And yes, he has his wife in the car, so that is going to make things a little different. I think there's some other lessons we want to think about through this too. He gets out, he's all kinds of pissed off and waving guns around. That's a terrible idea. And now, again, as the guy's like pointing around, hey, everybody, look, I want to pay attention to the fact that there are a bunch of bystanders around watching this. There's a dude on the right outside of his car. There's multiple cars hanging around. Being a bystander in this kind of situation is one of the dumbest things I can imagine. The best case scenario here is that you get some views on your TikTok. But you could also catch a bullet.
Yeah, and I know that some of them are probably kind of packed in here a little bit, not able to get away as much as they would like to. But please, if you find yourself a bystander in a situation like this, get away as much and as quickly as you can, because those bullets don't care where they are supposed to go. They'll go wherever, and you just don't know what'll happen. So get out of the danger zone, protect yourself. That's part of living a defensively minded life.
And also, again, I mean, golly, I know I make a living on people being this dumb and hanging in there and taking the video. So on the one hand, it's counterintuitive for me to tell you this. Don't take the video to send to John at Active Self-Protection. Get out of the danger zone and save your own life instead, because there's so much danger going on here. Now, I also want to talk about the fact that our guys here then, by some miracle, it seems, end up with a fire truck coming by. So our guys on the motorcycle are like, whoa, man, we don't want to have any problems here. They're going to end up seeing a fire truck and waving the fire truck down and be like, yo, dudes, we need help. That's evidence to me that they're not looking to be aggressors, but they are the aggrieved. And then our guy racing away, you might make an argument, Steph, that he's scared for his life, but now with the fire department there, with some authorities there, though they are not, deputized to enforce law, that he probably shouldn't. So that kind of tends to tell me who's the who in this particular case.
Yeah, it's such an interesting video because when we get cases as expert witnesses, they're often this murky and this difficult, and we're having to parse these little expressions and actions and try to decide what does this show evidence of. So that's what we're trying to talk you through on this one. We won't see enough of this case to know exactly what happened and exactly who is the aggrieved party here, but I think we can learn how difficult it could be to determine. But yeah, if you're the one flagging down help, that's going to show evidence that you're an innocent party in this. And if you're the one running away, and interestingly, we have the same person doing both, that's going to show evidence of guilt unless there's a safety issue. So it's a lot to weigh here, and I think it's an important lesson how challenging and difficult and murky these cases can be. It probably seems clear as day to these guys. To us as a third party, it's much more difficult to determine.
One final lesson here for us all to consider is our guy who has just gotten on his bike and decided he is going to pursue his buddy who is pursuing this guy who just pointed a gun at him. If you are the aggrieved one, this dude just almost hit me with his car, and when I said, hey friend, you should be a better driver in this world, and that was not nice and you should apologize, and he chose to point a gun at me, then when he ran off, I chose to chase him? That's colossally stupid. That's a failure of basic intelligence at a very high level. So there's a lot of stupid to go around in this one. Let's be better. Let's not participate in road rage. Let's use our firearms as tools of last resort. Let's not egg people on. Let's stop doing stupid stuff like this so that we can cover our ass.